I'm joined now by the co-host of Pod Save America, Tommy Vitor. Tommy, thanks for joining me.
Brian, good to see you.
So we've seen an unprecedented fracturing of Trump's coalition as a result of these Epstein files. The vote in the House, 427 to 1, unanimous in the Senate. And so I'm curious, as we move forward in Trump's administration, do you think that this is a permanent weakening? Does this make him look like more of a lame duck? Or is this just a momentary blip because the Epstein files are so different from everything else and Trump once again consolidates all of his control and power over over the Republican conference?
Yeah, but it was a real nail biter in the House, huh? It's pretty
Yeah.
remarkable. I mean, look, I think all of these members of Congress saw Donald Trump fighting tooth and nail to prevent this bill from getting passed, and then saw him acquiesce on Sunday night. And then the entire Congress voted to do something that he didn't want them to do, except for one person. So it's hard not to view this as the beginning of everyone starting to view Donald Trump as a lame duck. Now, that doesn't mean he doesn't have a lot of power, doesn't mean he can't tell the MAGA base what to do, doesn't mean he can't intervene in primaries in Republican districts, but it's a chink in the armor, and hopefully the first of many.
Do you think that this devalues in some way the threats that he's been throwing at people? I mean, he unendorsed Marjorie Taylor Greene and basically said, if I can field a primary opponent for her, let's do exactly that. Or it didn't seem to have any impact. And in fact, she ended up being on the right side of this Epstein thing with virtually every other Republican in all of Congress. And so I'm just curious how you're thinking about this idea that the biggest weapon Trump was able to wield beforehand was these threats that he would throw at these Republican lawmakers, Republican senators, whose primary goal is just to keep their jobs. And now recognizing that, like, well, Marjorie did it and she got, the full Trump treatment and nothing really happened to her. And so maybe this isn't as scary as I had presumed it would be.
Yeah, I mean, he did the same thing to Thomas Massey, right? And he's trying to raise money for an opponent and
Yeah.
super PACs to go against Massey. Um, Look, it certainly, I think courage begets courage. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, being able to tell Donald Trump, like, no, I am not with you. I'm on the side of the angels here. I'm standing with the victims. I think that's a big deal. And so, look, I think in this gerrymandered, hyperpartisan world we live in, the primary threat to most Republican members of Congress is still going to be a primary challenge from the right. And if Donald Trump decides to endorse their opponent, he can make life really hard for them, but he can't do it to all of them. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, like the entire Republican caucus, except for one dude,
Yeah.
sided with Marjorie Taylor Greene and not Donald Trump. And I do think that does weaken his power to threaten these members going forward.
What is going through Clay Higgins' mind? Like, how are you look, it would be one thing if he was, it's one thing if any of these Republicans are going to vote to protect pedophiles because they want to be on Trump's good side and protect Donald Trump. But for a vote that's symbolic because it's going to fail anyway, that's just for him. That's just so that he can go home at night and be like, well, you did it, Clay. You did your small part, symbolic though it may be, to make sure that you can protect pedophiles today. Like, what is going through that guy's mind?
Man, I read that statement and then I read it again and I tried to understand what he was talking about. And it makes absolutely no sense here. I don't know what he's doing. It's crazy. It seems like unbelievably politically damaging. It's not even going to help Trump. It just makes the whole story look ridiculous. It makes
Right.
Trump seem odd. Like, yeah, it's a mess. What an idiot.
And by the way, it also deprives Mike Johnson of being able to say, well, we were all 100% on board with this effort too. It's not just the
Right.
Democrats who want to get accountability for those who were involved in Epstein's crimes. It's us. But like, you can't even say, I mean, first of all, that would be so disingenuous that it would make your head hurt. But even just having the talking point, Clay Higgins precluded Mike Johnson from being able to have that.
Yeah, and I also love how Speaker Johnson is like, look, I don't love this bill either, but the place to fix it is over in the Senate, and I have some assurances that that's exactly what they're going to do.
Cut
And John
to.
Thune is like, not even, nope, we're literally not even going to vote on the thing. We're just going to assume it's done. It was
Yeah.
like amazing. Thune wanted no part of this. He's like,
Yeah.
this is your mess, Mike Johnson, not mine.
You had mentioned gerrymandering before, and so I want your reaction to the fact that Trump had issued his clarion call to Greg Abbott to redraw Texas's maps to give them 5 seats. California said, if you do this, we're going to do it too, so don't do this. Texas went ahead with it anyway, redrew their maps. California redrew their maps. California's got got challenged 5 times in court and beat back every single court challenge. Meanwhile, Texas's maps get challenged and they lose in court. So now, because of the process that was started by Trump and executed by Greg Abbott, they are down 5 seats compared to California.
It is, yeah, it could be a big cell phone for Donald Trump here. I mean, look, I think this, you would know better than I do about sort of the legal path forward
Yeah.
for the Texas maps, and it's probably not a done deal. But boy, would it be sweet if, because of Donald Trump's absurd mid-year intervention in trying to force Texas to redistrict, if he fails and then fails in Indiana, and then Utah goes the Democrats' way as well, and all of a sudden Democrats go into 2026 with wind in our sails because of redistricting. Like, this is not a scenario I ever would have imagined.
It's also worth noting North Carolina's maps are being challenged as well. Missouri is maybe going to a referendum for voters to decide on. So both of those maps are also in jeopardy. And meanwhile, Maryland has announced a redistricting commission that the governor is going to lead. So we should expect one more seat in Maryland. He told me in an interview that we are going to see our new maps in time for 2026. So again, that process may continue to play itself out. As it relates specifically to Texas, with this kind of 3-judge panel, it's appealed directly to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is going to be the next group of people to weigh in on this. And so they could, we can have a whole range of different rulings here, where either the maps are left in place where they agree with the lower court panel or they want to hear this case fully on the merits, or they just rule on the shadow docket. So we don't know what's going to happen, but still more to come. And at least we know, I mean, this ruling was handed down authored by a judge who Trump himself appointed. So it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world for the Supreme Court to say, look, this is based on conservative jurisprudence. And so, if we're abiding by conservative principles, which, that and $10 will get you a foot long at Subway. But if we're abiding by conservative principles, then there is it wouldn't be out of the realm of ordinary for us to agree with this lower court ruling.
It's amazing. I mean, I just, if this boomerangs in Trump's face, I'll be so happy. And also, once again, shout out Gavin Newsom. There's a lot of attention that's been paid to his tweets and the tone and the kind of the funny memes. But what Gavin Newsom really did here was use the power that he has as the governor of California to do something really meaningful for Democrats as we go into 2026 via Prop 50 in this redistricting plan. And I think that, more than almost anything else, is what Democrats want from our elected officials. It's like, use the power you have to the greatest extent that you can, and we will be happy.
So speaking of Gavin Newsom, obviously a contender as we head toward 2028, there's been also some kind of angling on the Republican side. Ted Cruz was asked specifically if he was going to run for president in 2028 and didn't give a no. And I feel like we've crossed some degree of a Rubicon here, because I feel like a month ago, if you had asked any Republican if they were willing to run in 2028, they would have never said anything, or they would have just said no, or done genuflecting at the altar of Donald Trump. But do you think that there's some relationship between the fact that Trump does seem weakened, especially in light of the whole Epstein situation, to the point where you can have someone like Ted Cruz be asked about a potential 2028 run, and the immediate answer not be no, or some genuflecting about how great Donald Trump is?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty weird couple of months. I mean, look, if you'd asked me this question 3 months ago, I would have been like, look, man, Trump's running for a third term. It's not constitutional. I'm not happy about it. I don't know what we can do. Then all of a sudden, Trump came out and said he doesn't think he could run again in 2028. And he's sort of like anointing both Rubio and JD Vance. But, Ted Cruz is an operator. He's wanted to be president his whole life. He will run and run and run, even though nobody wants him. But the fact that he wasn't willing to just kind of cave to the wishes of Donald Trump and hand the reins over, at least rhetorically for now, to Rubio and to JD Vance is pretty interesting.
With that said, on going back to the Epstein thing for just a moment, we did hear from Pam Bondi when she was at the podium at the DOJ speaking. She'd been asked specifically, is there anything that's going to stop you from releasing like the full breadth of the files, including that announcement that she made just a few days back, where she said that she's like acquiescing to Trump's demands to investigate a bunch of Democrats, Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, JP Morgan Chase. Do you think that this is going to be their last ditch Hail Mary pass, so that even if Trump does sign the bill forcing the release of these files, that there's that caveat that says, oh, we can release almost all of the files, but not the ones that are involved in this ongoing investigation into a bunch of Democrats.
Yeah, I mean that's the big concern, right? I mean this bill can pass, but we still then have to trust Trump's DOJ to actually release these files. And I don't have much confidence that his team would ever put out anything damaging to Donald Trump. And then there's the scenario you're talking about here, which is that they could claim that there are now ongoing investigations and anything that is a part of that investigation can't be released because they need to protect the files for, I don't know, law enforcement reasons. So that's another thing I think we have to watch. Mostly, I just think like Pam Bondi's a moron and she's flailing. I mean, I think she said she recently learned new information that changed her mind about whether or not to release the Epstein files. I don't believe that for a second. So I don't know. I think what keeps happening with this Epstein issue is Donald Trump can't put it to bed. You know what I mean? Like, even if this bill passes, we will all still be waiting for them to actually release the documents. And then people will be combing through the documents to see what's missing. Like, there is a chance that this is a never ending damaging story for him.
In terms of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino one day trying to go back to a podcasting career, how do you think their audience reacts to their return, to their valiant return after staking so much of their identity and brands on this idea that they're going to be these fearless warriors to go after the people involved in Epstein's crimes, and instead they're 11 months into an administration that has only tried to cover it up?
Buddy, like I'm like a close Kash Patel watcher because I think he is a uniquely dangerous and dishonest and unqualified individual in that job. So I pay a lot of attention to him, and I also consume a lot of right-wing media. And the right-wing media is killing Kash Patel. Like Candace Owens was mocking him for his like whiny tweets about people being mean to his girlfriend. This right-wing ex-FBI agent is going after him for constantly using the FBI's private jets to go visit his girlfriend. He flew to see her sing at some like low-rent wrestling match in Pennsylvania. Kash Patel took the FBI jet to some place called, I kid you not, the Boondoggle Ranch in Texas to go hunting.
It's like the writer's room is getting lazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy how bad of a job these guys are doing. So I think Kash Patel is largely seen as a joke among the like kind of far right circles that he was once trying to court. So yeah, he can try to be a podcaster again and like kind of like get back into that business, but these guys have just lost respect for him. And you know, like there's been a bunch of great reports recently. The Wall Street Journal, the New Yorker, a few others like did deep dives into Kash Patel. Like he is just not up for the job. He's not doing a good job. He is like look, when you sign up to be FBI director, you're basically agreeing that for the duration of your term, you're not going to have a social life. You're not going to go to UFC fights. You're not going to go watch your girlfriend at a wrestling match. You're not going to go to hockey games with Wayne Gretzky. But he is treating the FBI job like a fantasy camp where he gets a G5 and to do whatever he wants. And it's like it is pissing people off.
And Tommy, last thing here, you had texted me earlier today that you wanted me to let everybody know your nickname, Bubba, it says here.
Yes. Brian, I know you and I are, we're friends in real life. We're also just like crazy political junkies that exchange texts about politics stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I heard from more normie, like friends from college and high school about this story than I have in a long time.
Yeah.
Was that the same for you? Like, what's up with this Bubba thing?
Not only that, the best part is that the White House seemed to validate the criticism, because the very first thing they posted the next day was a picture of Trump and Melania holding hands in the White House, and they wrote "power couple." It's like when you start like methinks you doth protest too much, when you start having to compensate by posting pictures of your girlfriend to say like, hey man, he didn't suck Bill Clinton's dick.
Power bottom. Yeah, I think he said something about blowing his stack later on. Listen, sometimes we just need the jokes, you know, like the JD Vance couch thing. Sometimes you just need a joke.
Yeah. We'll leave it there. For those who are not yet subscribed to Pod Save America's YouTube channel, please help grow this progressive media ecosystem. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, so I'm going to put that link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. Tommy, thanks, man.
Thanks, buddy. Subscribe to Brian's channel right now. Subscribe.